Hey guys, J77 here. Before I do the last flashback review of the season, I might as well talk about a specific episode which is a tie-in to the last two videos I have done before releasing the last flashback review until at least the fall. Now, this episode happens to be a Twilight Zone. So yes, it's a TV episode that I'm going to be focusing on. The Twilight Zone episode is not from the old Twilight Zone, the classics, but the new ones that came out during the late 80s. The episode is called Special Service. Now, this episode deals with a guy just doing his ordinary dumb routine of getting ready to work. He's showered, he's brushing his teeth, he's doing everything that you typically would expect a guy getting ready to carry out the day. His world got turned upside down when his mirror fell off, revealing this camera that was on the wall. And he flips out. He don't know what was going on. How is this there? And before he gets a chance to do anything or react, here comes this maintenance guy, just putting the mirror back up and act like the camera was never there. After convincing him to for answers, he finds out that he's actually being filmed on television, and caught him completely by surprise. Why were they filming on television? How come he didn't notice about that earlier? And what's even more strange is that his wife was in on it. So it was like, what's going on here? He eventually starts tearing the place up a little bit, trying to find cameras in each corner. And after being warned not once but twice about removing the cameras, the guys from the network actually sees him. Now that the cat's out of the bag, see these women just lining up trying to grab a hold of him. They want to talk to him. They want to, it's gotten crazy. And he finds out that not only that he was on television, but he had his own channel, and he's the star of the show. He's on 24 hours a day, on 7 days a week. He turns on the TV. He sees his face on it. Then he finds out this was going on for quite some time, in fact, more than what he actually realized, to the point where not only was they filming his daily life, but it was actually dictating how things turn out. For example, is when he told his boss off and lost his job and stayed unemployed, the TV networks, so the executives, have actually helped him get a job, and since then, pretty much making things a little bit easier to boost the ratings. Of course, the guy is not actually happy about this. He demands it stops. He demands it all ends. And the network said, okay, fine. Once it all ends, however, he realized that he was just getting used to it, especially since he saw that big paycheck, and since he saw women, basically giving themselves to him, basically pouring their hearts out to him. And that's really where you see that he started to actually like being famous and stuff. The show ended pretty much on not much of a cliffhanger, but pretty much assuming that he may no longer have that fame, but then again, he may still be filmed, and that pretty much how that thing ends. We don't know if he's being filmed or not. Especially after the janitor put him back in the closet and said, "Hey, I'm not janitor. The maintenance guy put him back in the closet and said, "Hey, what's the best way to keep the show going while thinking the star is no longer being on watch?" And he let it go by that. But it's one of those episodes that really. It was one episode that actually caught the attention of a lot of people, and I'll get to that in a second. But I want to get this very, very clear. I want to make this very, very right to the point here. I did not like the new Twilight Zone. There were some episodes I give mad credit to. There's only some. There's a very short list. It's not even the top five. There's a very short list of episodes in the new Twilight Zone I actually respect a lot. There's only one episode from the one that Forrest Whitaker did that I actually give respect to. And that's largely because, unlike the old Twilight Zone, which actually had not only a story, but an educational value to it that you can actually take to heart. Um, the new Twilight Zone just basically told stories, and not good ones at that. They really missed the point of why the classic was so good. and I ended up getting really agitated, really mad about how what they was doing to the Twilight Zone. It became just a typical just tell a story, give a filler, and that's it. If I wanted that, I'd probably watch Monsters or even some Tales from the Dark Side. They may be goofy stories, but at least I had some sort of entertainment with. Um, and this story here is no different. This is not in my short list of good ones I like. I actually thought this was kind of stupid. The premises was kind of stupid. How he's supposed to be this big star, yet there's only a dozen women lining up to see him. You would think there would be more people crowded out to greet him. No, that's not the case. And I didn't like how the message went. Just be honest. Once he saw that big paycheck, and once he saw those women pouring on him, he wanted more of that. And I was very, as a kid, pretty much a young teenager, I had a problem with that type of ending. I still have a problem with it to this day. That it sent the wrong message. Not to say that the old Twilight Zone had that problem with some of the episodes, but they had it far few to compare to what this Twilight Zone did. Um, I consider this as a show that I remember watching. I actually remember the premise of it, but I won't consider it as a favorite. If you guys like special service, this Twilight Zone, even the newer Twilight Zones, that's cool. It's just that's not my Twilight Zone I grew up with. Even though I wasn't born in the time when the Twilight Zone began, I always watched the old Twilight Zone way before the new ones comes out. And the old ones, let's be realistic, is the ones they keep repeating in marathons. How often have you seen the newer ones being repeated? No one really cares about that. It's one of the reasons why the Forrest Whitaker one didn't last no more than a season. That was a one and done, gone. Nobody even talked about it anymore. So why am I bringing this up here? Is because as crazy as that show was, as goofy as it was, as uninterested I was with special service, I do have to give it thanks for being there. I have to say thank you for at least making this episode. Because if it wasn't for this episode, it would not be a Truman Show. This is the blueprint of the Truman Show. If you look at special service, which by the way, somebody did actually upload on YouTube. You can actually watch it right now if you want to. I'll even leave a link for you guys to do it. If you look at that episode, which is only 20 minutes long, and then watch the Truman Show again, the similarities is almost right there. In fact, the people who have created the Truman Show, who have made that movie, have the premises from special service. The only difference is, I think, the people who created the Truman Show, Peter Weir, who's the director, Jim Carrey, who's the actor, magnificent job, by the way, again, they did it 10 times better. The message there was 10 times better. Whereas opposed to this episode, which granted, I will say is 20 minutes, and you can't really do much in 20 minutes, but I still felt that they dropped the ball when it came to telling this type of story. And that's unfortunate, but I have to give it credit for one thing. This is the brainchild of what I consider to be one of the all-time great movies that it came out during the last 20 years. That says a lot. Even Ed TV owes something to this movie because there's also similarities of privacy and how much is going too far. And by the way, this conversation about privacy is still ongoing to this day. Xbox One with that Connect thing, I rest my point. The point is that this episode somehow got the attention of a lot of big shot producers saying, "Hey, we can actually do something similar to this. Let's make it possible." And they made it possible. And I got to give it credit; they did it right. They actually, truly did it right. The Truman Show, and I'm going to go back to the Truman Show because of the following reason: because there's a lot of study on the Truman Show. There's a lot of studies on this for a lot of reasons, and a person who sadly no longer have a channel had really done a great job with analyzing this particular type of movie, and he brought up a lot of elements that is so true, especially with the creator who in all honesty, he thought he was God, and how these characters who really didn't care for Truman, only cared for their own interests at heart, that's really was doing everything they can to keep something going, even though it wasn't real, it wasn't authentic. It was just basically them and their own selfish greed. And here you have Truman, who, the creator of this show, first off, saying that hey, he could leave at any time, but in reality, he can't leave. If he leaves, everything is the show is over. The world ends, and he became so corrupted by this. The creator, he was willing to kill him just to keep this show going, and it really does show a lot of how people view television because you see the crowd, and I think that was one of the most brilliant thing they can do. You see it from the audience point of view, those who are watching it, and you also see it from Truman's point of view and how this is affecting him, and it really is affecting him. He wants to go, he wants to move on, he wants to see new things, but you have these people around him, and you also have this creator keeping him from doing that. So when he so when Christo, when he was talking on the phone with the girl he kicked off uh, of the set because he realized she was actually really falling in love with Truman. He didn't want that. She always said that he's not an actor, he's a prisoner. Look at him. And he couldn't accept that. He was saying, I'm giving him our normal life. The world you live in is sick. But it was, and that's the kind of thing that it really, it's almost like they was actually preaching the Garden of Eden. He's in the Garden of Eden. If he leaves there, that whole paradise is gone. In reality, it's just a prison. And that was one of the things that really caught on to me. I'm like, this guy, he really thinks he's almighty powerful. And nothing was proven that if you guys have watched the deleted scenes, especially the deleted scene where he's talking to the cast members, he's explaining that Marrow is no longer going to be a part of the cast, and she's leaving because obviously she can't no longer deal with that situation. One more thing before I move on. If anybody saw the deleted scene, and you know what I'm talking about, because you guys please type in the comment section how Meryl got a cast on her neck, because that one caught me by surprise, because I know they had an argument, but Truman never struck her, at least not give her whiplash or anything, so that was kind of a weird thing that I saw on the deleted scenes, but that's neither here nor there. If you guys know what it is, please comment on the section. Maybe it's something I missed on one of these scenes. But back to the situation. They was explaining a lot of situations. Christo was explaining what he wants to do and how he's going to arrange it. And it was already been put on stone. This was said even in the movie that he wanted a kid. Truman wanted to have a child so he can move on, keep the legacy going. And he said he was going to go to a two television format, one monitoring the kid as well as to Truman. And they were saying what happens if they're both together. They will have dual coverage. There was one comment that one of the cast members made. It was a very cold comment because, one, he was already thinking ahead, and that was scary. And two, how Christoph, the creator of The Truman Show, responded. The comment was, so when Truman dies, do we go back to a one format show? And that caught me. It basically made me do a double take. Why would you ask that question? And what's scary is, Christopher never asked and never gave him a reply. All he said in a cold, calm manner, that will be all, gentlemen. No response to that question whatsoever. And when I heard that, it's like, I had to rewind that because the voice tone alone says a lot. It says a lot. And I know people like, what the hell does that have to do with Secret Service? It actually have a lot to do with Secret Service. It actually has a lot to do with The Truman Show and why reality TV, if they really do it on reality TV, is actually more dangerous than I think people realize. In fact, it has become more dangerous when normal people actually was filming. Kate plus 8 is proof of that. To the point where people get turned off very quickly, especially when real life situation is happening. People don't want to see real life drama. I'm sorry to tell you this, that Flavor Flav and Charm School, Survivor, you can call it reality TV what you want, but it's not really reality. All right, that's a fantasy made for us to watch. All right, I don't consider the Kardashian shows of any kind reality TV. It may be for some, but it's definitely not for me because why? I'm not in that reality. I'm not there with them. That is just something of a fantasy to me because I can never live the life they live, and that's cool with that. Some people want to see that because it gives them through the day. I have no problem with that. But in terms of what this movie showed, in terms of the Truman Show I've seen, it showed, without a shadow of doubt, that this type of reality TV where no one don't even know that they're being filmed, or they know it's being filmed, but their privacy is constantly being shown 24 hours a day at TV. You know what I'm talking about? Can have a strain, can have a detrimental, and can be annoying and can be very dangerous because that person is not thinking about the well-being of the persons being filmed, but how they can keep the ratings up, what dramatic situation they we do, and what tragedy we can put forward to either keep him there or keep the show going even well after he's gone. And there's no feelings towards that. It's just the ratings, how we can keep it moving, and that's it. Um, the ending of the Truman Show proves that. Christopher wasn't thinking about Truman's life. He wasn't thinking about his concern. He was thinking about stopping him at all costs, even if it means killing him. Um, when that person, when they from his ex-executive said, "My God, man, the whole world's watching. You can't let him die in front of a live audience." He was just saying it straight up. He was born in front of him. And I think at the last moment, he did finally grow a conscience and said, "This is enough. I can't take that." Because death is not a joke. Death is something serious. This is real. He's always been doing a fantasy thing. And even with that being said, when Truman was at the door, he was still trying to manipulate the situation, whispering in his ear, saying, you can't leave because you're afraid. And it's almost like he's like, I know you more than anybody else. You don't know him more than anybody else, because if you did, you would have seen that he really wanted to leave from day one. He wanted to leave. And I was looking at this, just like the audience in the screen, how they was like, on the edge of their feet. I'm going to say, I wonder what he's going to pick. But most importantly, I was wondering what Crystal was going to say to mess it up. Because his ego was going to get in the way. And it sure enough did. Because when he said, well, talk, goddammit, you're on live television. You're live to the world. That's when you knew right there. That's when he messed up. That's where he messed up. Because it wasn't really about Truman's. It wasn't really about his concern. It was about the show. And nothing else. So when Truman did that, I started smiling because it was over. He bowed his head and left. And once the show went out, I actually liked how they actually turned back, I think, the two security cops. And it's like, oh, well, the show's over. So what's up? What else is on? Life goes on. The show, and the movie just basically ended like that. So we don't know if Truman ever met the woman. Don't know has he seen the outside world or what happened afterwards. It just ended. And you know what? I was happy with that because you don't really need to know what happened outside the world. The main objective was, will he ever leave? And he did leave. And all that came from this one Twilight Zone episode from 22 that was 22 minutes long. They got that premises from a 22-minute episode. It is amazing. It is really amazing. I gotta say that again, they did it better. I think they did it way better and more smarter than I think you can ever have. And I'm not excusing Ed TV because I think they also did something that the Truman Show didn't do. Show the consequences of having a show on 24 hours. I said that before. That having your people value their privacy a lot. They value it. That's pretty much a sacred thing to everyone in this world. I don't care if you're even the most dire of video makers. There is a point of view that you don't want nobody seeing or knowing, and that's fine. That is your private life. It should remain private. And I think that at TV, if anything else, showed that okay, he's on 24 hours a day. He's getting all this money. He's getting all this back pay that they promised him. But what are you really giving up? He gave up his privacy, and when he did that, he wasn't happy anymore. Yeah, he got the cameras moving around there, but he cannot have a normal life. He cannot, cannot have a date without someone following him all the time. It's really just basically he's put himself in a situation where, well, that camera is that's it, and everybody's seeing you. I go on to say that his only true source of privacy is when he was in the bathroom watching TV from his bathroom, and that was it. The camera was still outside waiting for him to come out. It really was. He basically, his privacy has now been basically shrunk into the restroom. That's it. And when he wanted out, they actually gave him put an actual clause, a fine print saying that, well, we're gonna still film you anyway. He had to literally pretty much blackmail the company, saying, if you don't let me go, I'm gonna reveal this. And when he almost revealed it, that's when the show ends. And again, they did a good job of showing that. I think they did a better job than what I think a lot of people give Ed TV credit. I know Ed TV has a very mixed review. It's not exactly well loved by a lot of people. A lot of people think it ripped off the Truman Show, but it hasn't really. To me, it didn't. In many ways, it did its own thing, and it did it pretty well. My only sadness is that it didn't succeed in the box office. This is one of Ron Howard's biggest bombs. And it's kind of sad too, because for the most part, I thought the cast did a good job. I thought Matthew McConaughey did a good job in this film. I thought Woody Harrelson did a good job. A lot of the cast members did what was asked of. Even Anthony Hopkins, God rest his soul, did Dennis Hopper. I'm sorry, good. God rest his soul. Did a good job. And again, it all stems back to that one episode. I know a lot of people saying you were basically supposed to talk about Secret Special Service, but you're talking more about the Truman Show on that TV. Well, that's because these all that I just mentioned here, Special Service, at TV, Truman Show, all has a link to each other. They may not be the same thing, but they all bring the same premises. And keep in mind, I didn't like Special Service because, to me, even though I know what they was getting at, they dropped the ball at the end. I felt they dropped the ball in the end because, look, when he saw the money and the women, he became a little greedy. He said, okay, I want this now. And we never know if he's still being filmed or they just did that so that way he can move on with his life. But you can tell that the greed got to him. The greed never got to the Truman. He wanted to leave. There was really nothing he can do to change his mind. He was hearing what the person had to say, but in the end, he wanted to live his own life his way. Greed did play a part in some ways with Ed TV, but once the privacy life and once their business got on Easy Street, it wasn't fun anymore, and he wanted out. He realizes that this is causing more harm than good, especially when he couldn't even go to his own father's funeral to say his final respects and final goodbyes. And that's because the cameras in there, and because the family didn't look into TV. It was to the point where they was invading all the family's lives on TV, and it became a problem. And I look at these films, especially with the Twilight Zone, because I will give them. You have to look at the Twilight Zone episode and look at these two movies, and you have to really also study them. You don't just look at them, enjoy them. Don't get me wrong, but also study them and ask yourself, if you was in any of those characters, Truman or Matthew McConaughey's character, would you want to be filmed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Chances are you may like it at first, but if it's constantly being the cameras on your face whereas now when you get up, that's what you see, you're probably going to get ignored and not like it, and you're going to probably say enough already. That's the whole point. That's the whole big gist about it. The privacy factor will play in at the end. And again, this is one of the things why I will never accept the fact that reality TV is reality TV, because to me it's not. Most of those reality TVs are scripted. I'm just keeping it real. They're mostly scripted. But that's pretty much it for those. I actually closed out those two movies with Special Service. And again, I'm not a fan of this show. I'm not a fan of the new Twilight Zone show. Not a fan of the 90s version. Definitely not a fan of this episode. But for the most part, I gotta give it his thanks because it gave me a movie that I truly love, especially a movie that I consider to be underrated. And for the most part, I took a lot of what these two films were showing, a whole lot, and that's saying something. That's saying something a movie that I don't think it was meant to be looked at that deeply, but a lot of people do. I mean, I'm not the only one who feels this way about these two films. A lot of people look at these films and it has a deeper meaning, and most of the stuff I have pretty much presented on this video. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video before making the last one of the year, which, oh god, the pain I'm gonna have to go through. But you'll find out what movie that is, because it is a movie, and I got a lot to say about that. So do prepare yourself for a not so happy ending review when it comes to that. But in all, that's pretty much it. The end of the chain link ends here. Again, special service is on YouTube. How long it's going to be there, I don't not know. Hopefully, if I leave a link down there, YouTube haven't taken it down. YouTube has been pretty much aggressive lately on episodes on their channel, and that's largely because companies have been saying copyright infringement. So there you go. So, but from what I understand, it's up there. If I leave a link, I'll leave it for you guys. You guys can look for it for yourself and do the comparison for yourself. If you've seen the episode, do you even remember the episode? Put it down on the comment box. What do you think about what I said about the two shows here? I also like to hear your opinion on that. I really do. And give me your own thoughts on the Truman Show, Ed TV, and Special Service. Do you guys feel the same way, or do you really don't care? I'd like to hear your opinion on that, especially those in matter expression. I'd like to hear your own opinion on this matter. But for now, I'm going to leave it at that, and next week is the final video of the season. But until then, this is Jason7 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon.